بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم اللهم صل على سيدنا ومولانا محمد معدن الجود والكرم وعلى آله وصحبه وبارك وسلم. مشكاة المصابيح كتاب الإيمان فصل أول Hadith number 25. Yesterday we listened to the hadith from Sayyiduna Abu Dars-e-Ghifari radiyallahu ta'ala, which is hadith number 25 in the chapter, in which he said that the Messenger of Allah sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wasallam said that anyone who recites the kalima La ilaha illallah Muhammadur Rasulullah sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wasallam, yani he speaks it with his tongue, he believes it in his heart, and he remains firm upon it, then he will enter Jannah. And Sayyiduna Abu Dars-e-Ghifari radiyallahu ta'ala said, wa in zana wa in saraq, even if he commits adultery, even if he steals. And Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, yes, even if ala raghmi anfi Abi Dhar, we said yesterday. So we said that the previous ahadith have also said that as long as an individual dies with Iman, then he will go to Jannah. This hadith specifically just mentions that a person who has Iman and dies with Iman, even though he committed sin, he will go to Jannah. And that could be interpreted to say that he may temporarily go to Jahannam for the punishment of his sins and then go to Jannah. However, the previous ahadith have quite clearly said that anyone who recites the Shahada, then Allah has made Jahannam haram upon that individual. And if the matter was such that they would go to Jahannam for their sins temporarily and then go to Jannah, then there would be no reason for Rasulullah sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wasallam to say to Sayyiduna Mu'adh radiyallahu ta'ala that don't tell the people, otherwise they will become reliant. There would be no reason for Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam to say that. So the fact of the matter is what Ala Hazrat radiyallahu ta'ala said, ke mujda baad aasiyo, है ना, mujda baad aasiyo, shafi shahe abrar hai. And after that he said tahniyat to the sinful people, jabu rab ghaffar hai, when the Lord Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is all forgiving. The Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam is the shafi. But as I mentioned before, that the salah, the zakat, the hajj, the faraid, the wajibat, they ensure that your iman is not taken away from you before you pass away. And therefore it is necessary, it is absolutely incumbent upon every Muslim to perform their 5 times daily salah, to fast in the month of Ramadan, to give zakat when it is fard upon them, and to perform hajj when they are financially, physically able to do so. Otherwise there is no guarantee of their iman leaving them before they pass away. Apart from that, the aqidah of the Ahlul Sunnah is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, nothing is wajib upon Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It is not wajib for Allah to put you into Jannah, put us into Jannah. It is not haram upon Allah to put us into the fire of hell. It is entirely up to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And therefore the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is in that we follow the Sharia of Islam, and if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is pleased, then He will not send us to Jahannam, and He will send us to Jannah. This final 10 days of the month of Ramadan, we should be emphasizing on freedom from the fire of hell. Allahumma ajirna minan nar, ya mujiru, ya mujiru, ya mujiru. There is also a hadith in which a companion, which is quite a famous hadith, you're all familiar with it, where a companion came to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam and he said, Mata sa'a ya Rasulullah, when is the day of judgment, O Messenger of Allah? Narrated by Sayyiduna Anas ibn Malik radiyallahu ta'ala an. And the Messenger of Allah sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wasallam said to him, Ma'adatta laha, what have you prepared for the day of judgment? You're asking when the day of judgment is. You should be more concerned about what you have prepared for the day of judgment. So he replied, Ki ya Rasulullah sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wasallam, La shay'a, there is nothing, min salati wa siyam, there is no salah, no fasting. In one specific narration, the wording clearly says that he said, there is nothing, no salah, no siyam, no fast. There is nothing. Illa an uhibba Allah wa rasulah. but that I love Allah and His Messenger. And that is what Iman is. That is the Shahada that we're talking about. Someone who dies with Iman. I love Allah and I love the Messenger of Allah. So Rasulullah sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wasallam said, Anta ma'a man ahbabta. In another narration, Al mar'u ma'a man ahabba. Every man will be with he who he loves. So the answer to him is that you love Allah and the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So on the Day of Judgment, you will be with the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And whosoever is with the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he is not going to Jahannam. He is going to Jannah. So that hadith also implies, in fact, it confirms that an individual with Iman, and Iman means that love Allah and love Rasulullah sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wasallam, then that person will go to Jannah. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant us all entry into Jannah in the circle of Shaykh Abdul Qadir Jilani through the Shafa of Rasulullah sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wasallam. The next hadith is hadith number 26. وعن عبادة بن الصامت رضي الله تعالى عنه قال قال رسول الله صلى الله تعالى عليه وسلم. Sayyiduna Ubadah ibn Samit radiyallahu ta'ala, it is narrated from him that he said that the Messenger of Allah sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wasallam said, Man shahida an la ilaha illallah wahdahu la sharika la, wa anna Muhammadan abduhu wa rasuluh, wa anna Isa abdullahi wa rasulihi. Whosoever testifies that there is none worthy of worship but Allah, He is alone, la sharika la, he has no partner, and that Muhammad is his servant and his messenger, and that Isa is the servant of Allah and his messenger, wabnu amatihi, and the son of his slave woman, yani Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala slave woman, wa kalimatuhu, and the kalima of Allah, yani Sayyiduna Isa alayhi salam is the kalima of Allah, alqaha ila Maryama, which he entered into Maryam, yani he sent it upon Maryam. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent Jibreel Amin to place the kalima of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in Sayyida Maryam, wa ruhum minhu, and the ruh from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, yani Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala granted him life and a body and a ruh without a father, so that's why he is known as Kalimatullah and Ruhullah. So anyone who believes that, wal jannata wan nara haqqun, and he testifies that Jannah and the fire of hell is haqq, it is the truth, adkhalahu Allahu al jannata ala ma kana min al amal, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will enter him into Jannah based upon that which he has from his a'mal, ma kana min al amal, yani his daraja, his stage, his rank in Jannah will be based on his a'mal in the world. Muttafaqun alayh, this hadith is muttafaq alayh, it is agreed upon by Imam Bukhari and Imam Muslim. So from this we learn that it is not just saying La ilaha illallah Muhammadur Rasulullah, but to believe it, to accept it, to submit to it, and to remain firm upon it. Because I mentioned last time to you in the beginning of Ramadan that La ilaha illallah has everything in it. Now I mentioned that it has all the sifate, imane, mufassal, mujmal, it has all the kalimat in there, it has all of the Quran in there, it has all the hadith in there, it has all of the shariat in there, everything is in that kalima La ilaha illallah Muhammadur Rasulullah. Here Sayyiduna Ubadah bin Samit, his narration expands the testification that when you testify La ilaha illallah Muhammadur Rasulullah, that means that you testify Allah is one alone, He has no partners, you testify that Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam is His servant, His messenger, and in that it is included that Isa is the servant and messenger of Allah, and he is the son of his slave woman Sayyida Maryam, and he is the kalima of Allah, and he is the ruh of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And you also have to believe in Jannah and Jahannam, which is part of ilm ghaib that every man possesses. He believes that Jannah and Jahannam exists. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will enter that individual into Jannah. Yani, it is Iman upon everything that the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam brought with him. And there is a narration somewhere later on in which Sayyiduna, one of the Sahaba Kiram, he mentions that the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, that La ilaha illallah Muhammadur Rasulullah, the person will enter Jannah. That's enough. However, from that some people think that means everybody, even the Qadianis recite La ilaha illallah Muhammad Rasulullah. So Qadiani will go to Jannah, Shia recite that kalima as well. Although they may add something, but they do recite that kalima. So they will go to Jannah as well. So regarding that, what I have said before, that La ilaha illallah means to follow the whole Quran, the Hadith and the whole of the Sharia, which is the Ahlus Sunnah wal Jama'ah. But there is a Hadith that is mentioned in, I think, the Fasl Thalith, in which one of the Sahaba Kiram, he specifically mentions that the kalima is a key to Jannah. The kalima is a key, and the key has teeth. And all those teeth are everything that the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ brought with him. Anything is missing, then that key is not going to work. Anything you have added, bid'at, like the belief that the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ didn't have ilm ghaib, that's a bid'ah. To believe that the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ is a normal human like us, that's a bid'ah. To believe that Sayyidina Abu Bakr Siddiq shouldn't have been the first Khalifa and Sayyidina Ali should have been the first Khalifa radiyallahu ta'ala anhuma, that's a bid'ah. Anything added onto that key, it will not work. So the kalima La ilaha illallah Muhammadur Rasulullah is a key for you, so long as you do not add anything on there and you do not remove anything from there. Yani you adhere to the true path of Islam, which the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the Sahaba Kiram, and throughout history, through the Mashayikh Izam, reached Imam Ahmad Raza radiyallahu ta'ala, and like that, it is here today in the name of Maslak of Imam Ahmad Raza radiyallahu ta'ala. That is the key to Jannah. That is what it means to recite La ilaha illallah Muhammadur Rasulullah, to believe it, submit to it, and to remain firm upon it. The next hadith is hadith number 27, which is the final hadith in the fasl, the first fasl. It says, وَعَنْ Amr ibn al-As radiyallahu ta'ala an. A question may arise that why in that hadith is Sayyiduna Isa radiyallahu ta'ala mentioned specifically there, because as I've mentioned before, that Rasulullah sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wasallam used to speak based on his audience. When someone, when he mentioned the most superior of all actions are or is, he mentioned different things on different occasions. It was based on his audience. For a certain audience, a certain action may be more virtuous. For a certain audience, another action may be superior. So he informed people based on their understanding, or based on their lives and based on their actions. تَكَلَّمُ النَّاسَ قَدْرَ أُقُولِهِمْ. Speak to people based on their understanding, based on their circumstances, their scenarios. And like that here, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, as is clear, that it is to those who have accepted Islam from Christianity, that it is incumbent upon them that they believe that Isa is the slave of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, not the son of Allah, like that. And like that, if you, or for example, if someone is accepting Islam and he comes from Judaism, then he will be told to accept that I accept all the prophets and messengers of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala before and after Sayyidina Musa alayhi salam. I accept Sayyidina Isa alayhi salam as a prophet of Allah, and so on. And like that, if a Shia is doing tawbah and he is accepting Islam, he is renewing his faith, or he is accepting Islam again, then you would make him say certain things that you may not ask someone else to say. Like that, sometimes, depending on the circumstances, you would make people say certain testifications. And that's the sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The next hadith, Sayyiduna Amr ibn As radiyallahu ta'ala an qala, he said that أتيت النبي صلى الله تعالى عليه وسلم, I came to the Prophet صلى الله تعالى عليه وسلم, فقلت أبسط يمينك فلأبايعك. Yani he came to accept Islam. When he came to accept Islam in the court of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Sayyiduna Amr ibn al-As, a great Sahabi, one of the Kibar Sahaba Kiram, he said that I said to the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Ubsut yaminak, put up, give me your right hand, Fali ubayi'ka, so that I can do bay'ah on your hand, yani I can accept Islam. فَبَسَطَ يَمِينَهُ, so he sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wasallam put his blessed right hand out. فَقَبَضْتُ يَدِي, so he says, I took my hand back. So the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam has given his hand and he's taken his hand back. And this is all the character of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam here, that someone is doing that does not mean that you become angry or show your arrogance that you don't know who I am the messenger of Allah. He sallallahu alaihi wasallam did not show any arrogance at all. He says, فَقَالَ, the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, مَا لَكَ يَا Amr, what is the matter, O Amr? What's happened to you, O Amr? Why have you taken your hand back? قُلْتُ, he said, that I said, أَرَدْتُ أَنْ أَشْتَرِطَ, I wish to place a condition upon my Islam. I wish to place a condition before I do bay'ah. So قال, the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, تَشْتَرِطُ مَاذَا, what would you like as a condition in accepting Islam? So he said, قُلْتُ, I said to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, أَيْ يُغْفَرَ لِي, that all my past is forgiven. Everything I've done, all the evil, whatever I've done, anything I've done, may it all be forgiven. And this is a Jalilul Qadr Sahabi of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And these Jalilul Qadr Sahaba Kiram have been protected from evil and sin from before Islam. But yes, many of them were followers of Christianity and Judaism, but when they became aware of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, they accepted immediately. So they didn't do anything wrong. But anyhow, he says, أَيُّغْفَرَ لِي, my condition is that everything from my past is completely cleared. قال, so he sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, أَمَا عَلِمْتَ يَا Amr, do you not know, O Amr, أَنَّ الْإِسْلَامَ يَهْدِمُ مَا كَانَ قَبْلَهُ, that Islam erases everything from the past. He sallallahu alaihi wasallam had already announced that before, that whosoever accepts Islam, everything from the past is erased, yani all the wrong is erased. So do you not know that, O Amr? وَأَنَّ الْهِجْرَةَ تَهْدِمُ مَا كَانَ قَبْلَهَا, and just like that, hijrah, migration, it wipes out everything from before it. And the previous two, these two that have just been mentioned, may not be that relevant to us. Hijrah potentially can be. But the next one, he sallallahu alaihi wasallam then said, وَأَنَّ الْحَجَّ يَهْدِمُ مَا كَانَ قَبْلَهُ, and that Hajj erases everything that is before it. So the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam here has mentioned three things. He said that when a non-Muslim accepts Islam, all of his past sins and wrongdoings are all forgiven. They are all cleared. And someone who performs migration, then all of his sins and all of his evil from the past, all his wrongdoings, they are forgiven. And like that, when someone performs Hajj, then all of that is completely forgiven. Rawahu Muslimun, Imam Muslim narrated this hadith. And the next hadith is in Fasl Thani, but Imam Khatib al-Tabrizi, the one who's worked on Imam Baghawi's Misbah al-Masabi, he says that وَالْحَدِيثَانِ الْمَرْوِيَّانِ عَنْ أَبِي هُرَيْرَةَ رَضِيَ اللَّهُ تَعَالَى, and the two narrated hadith from Sayyiduna Abu Hurairah radiyallahu ta'ala an, قال, in which he said, قال الله تعالى, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, أَنَا أَغْنَى الشُّرَكَاءِ عَنِ الشِّرْكِ, I am free from those who partner from amongst the mushrikeen. وَالْآخَرُ, and the other one, الْكِبْرِيَاءُ رِدَائِ, that magnificence is my upper garment. سَنَذْكُرُهُمَا, we shall mention them, فِي بَابِ الرِّيَاءِ وَالْكِبْرِ, in the chapter of Riya and Kibr, arrogance. Riya is like showing off, doing something for the pleasure of someone other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That is what Riya is, and it is known as shirk-e-khafi. It is a minor shirk. You should only be doing whatever you do for the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. For you to do something for the pleasure of someone other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is a minor form of shirk. It is haram. You do not leave Islam, however, it is a sin, it is haram. Well, kibr is arrogance. Only Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has the right to practice kibr. That's why one of the attributes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is al-mutakabbir. and he performs takabbur. No other person has the right to do takabbur. And that's why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has all these malaika doing all the work. The malaika giving us rain, writing our deeds, they are not required by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He doesn't need anyone to write down and account for our deeds. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows everything, and He can make everything happen whenever He wants. Whatever happened, whenever He wants it to happen, He can say kun and it be and it becomes. On the Day of Judgment, if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala just said be, all the accounts would be there before us. But for Him to have malaika, to have all these malaika coming in the court of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, giving salami, there 70,000 every day, or in the morning and the evening, and then all these malaika in the skies, all the work that's being done is all the all the takabbur of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Yani He is al-mutakabbir. He's the only one that has the right to show His greatness. None of us have the right to do that. So regarding that, there are two hadith which maybe al-Masabi, Imam Baghawi mentioned them in Kitabul Iman, but Imam Khatib al-Tabrizi has moved them into the chapter of Riya and Kibr. Maybe inshallah we'll talk about them tomorrow. Sadaqa Rasulullah sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wa sallam. Jazakumullahu khaira. Assalamu alaikum.